Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome to Strong Talk, Islamic Action TV, Guerrilla Minded Productions. Myself, Bilal Ali Hugh, at the helm, with my guest today, a very special guest, Sister Stella. How you doing, my sister?
Greetings.
Greetings to you, and good to have you in the house, a media expert. So this should, or somebody with a long history, a decorated history of working in the broadcast journalism. So I'm really looking forward to today. And I just want to jump in straight away. And if you could maybe just share a little bit about, you've got a long journey, but a little bit about your journey in terms of working in radio, in broadcast journalism.
Just a little bit, I kind of got into radio through being homeless, listening to the radio, not hearing what I wanted to hear, feeling isolated and feeling that I could maybe make a contribution to radio in some way. And so I got involved in radio in that respect. Phoned up, said that I don't want to win any more records, I want to come and present something of my own, and was invited to come to a radio station called Rock to Rock. That was back in the 80s.
Ancient times.
Yeah, and it was collected, I think it was on the 25th of December or some date like that, and they took me to, in fact I was blindfolded because I wasn't, the locations were really secretive.
Yeah.
And so we got to this place, and I was invited to present a 15-minute programme.
Anyway, it evolved out of that?
It did. I decided to take with me information, community news, views, what's going on and where, and just use the music to link the information. But for me it was more about information.
So you say information, I'm thinking that you was given a new platform. What type of information was you dropping on the people, and what was you bringing out? What was going on?
Well, it was information like if there was training happening, and it was free training that people could access. So it was things that were accessible to people. That it wasn't necessarily paid events. It was places for people to go to learn. It was places for people to take their family to. It was news. I may have sort of seen something in the news that was interesting and relevant to the black community, and so I would maybe rewrite and present that again as a short story. So yeah, it was generally like what I called community news and views and what's going on and where it's happening.
Okay, Rock to Rock, back in the day, if I remember right, it was essentially directed towards the black community, right? And I'm wondering if the information that you see out there at present for the black community, we're speaking London, everything's on the World Wide Web now, but we're talking about from a London perspective. Are you happy the way that things have evolved in terms of information shows, or do you see a deficit in the community that needs to be filled?
There's definitely a deficit, because the nature of radio is that, the nature of media is usually that whoever, especially if it's private media, whoever owns it has the power to control what goes out. And so when people talk about what programs you listen to, or the programming of a radio station or a TV station, then it is just that, programming.
Okay.
And so the owner of that medium, will decide on how they want to, or what they want to put out, and when they want to put it out, and obviously that will then have an influence on the listener, maybe the time that they're listening, the mood that they're in when they listen, or the mood that what you put out can influence the listener to happen. So in terms of what goes out now, yeah, there's a major deficit, and especially the way media has evolved, because when I first started radio, there was no internet.
Right. So because you're talking back in the 80s.
Yeah, my vision at the time was, I would like to have a local radio station, and then maybe a regional station, national, international, then global. But during that time, whilst I was being involved in radio, the internet came on board, and so you already had this medium, a different medium instantly, where information was being shared, by the ones that had access to media, and then eventually, you had.
How do you think it's changed the game, though, the World Wide Web, the internet, in terms of radio in particular?
In terms of radio, I think that it's, in some respects, it's marginalised, the black community, in terms of information. Yeah.
How so?
Because, say for example, you have, I don't know, 100,000, however many internet radio stations, you can only tune into one at a time. And you don't necessarily know who else is tuning into that radio station, and it may not be as interactive and as intimate as a local or regional radio station might be within a real community.
Okay.
And on the on the web, sometimes it is virtual. It sort of consists of almost virtual communities, if you like. That these people never really get a chance to meet up, whereas on a sort of a normal local radio station, you could be organising events where people can meet up.
Okay, so like local events.
Yeah,
local issues.
Yeah, even regional, you can have events where people can meet up and discuss issues that have been broadcast on the radio station, and it can be extended to the wider community by coming and meeting at a certain place and and discussing it wider. And so I think that in some respects internet radio it's kind of for me it can be restrictive.
Okay. During the brief we were talking about stations, or we were unaware of many stations that were managed. You managed the station, but you saying that we're not aware of community radio stations that were managed by sisters, by women, by black women. Do you think that's cost us as a black community?
Yeah.
And in what way? Could you expand on that?
Well, for me, man and woman, there normally has to be a balance. I believe in balance, and the media industry and the radio industry is very male dominated.
As societies, though, isn't it?
Yes,
A reflection of society.
Yeah, and media perpetuates it.
Right.
And so when you hear, you see or you hear the programs, again, a lot of the time, not as much now as then in the 80s, but definitely, you were hearing programs and even on community stations that were, male dominated and male orientated. It was almost like male. It was egotistical radio. I used to work in radio, and at one point, we did training, and within the radio and the training context, I was managing 200 volunteers, and there was a lot of presenters, and somebody said to me, "How do you manage all these people? How do you?" And I said to the person, "I think I've realised that I'm having to look at egos. I just have to look at the different egos that I'm dealing with, or the different characteristics of these egos, and deal with each ego according to the ego, but it was very male dominated. There wasn't usually typical, radio station, community radio station, back in the 80s and 90s was that you had a male presenter, DJ,
as you do, yeah,
and you had the studio assistant,
the secretary.
Yeah, it was just typical, and it was like, you very rarely heard the secretary speak or voice an opinion, and so, yeah.
So you're saying back in the 80s and the 90s, do you think that there's been a fundamental shift, or there's been just a little seeping? Is the door only cracked open, or has the sisters bust the door open?
Well, there's been changes, there's been like some good changes, some positive and like profound changes in terms of, females, producers, female presenters, researchers, just involved in all aspects of media, which, I think is really good.
So what's your reflections on the old guard that will say, at the end of the day, men do run society, men are in the dominant position, and that even if you open the door to a lot of sisters, or for sisters to come through and have an opinion, that they're really going to just be mimicking men. It's almost like if you look in the popular culture, in the arts, so men rap, and then women come through, they rap about the same thing. If men go down a rabbit hole and rap misogyny, then the women follow, and the same is in dance. So you got ladies soul, you got dirty lyrics from a man, then again dirty lyrics from a woman. So what say you about that from that point of view?
Me, I say that a man can't give birth. So there are certain experiences that a woman will have that a man will not have, and vice versa. There's certain experiences that a man will have that a woman can't have. And so there's room for both. You know, there's room for both in terms of keeping the thing balanced.
Okay. Where do we go from here with black media? We're talking about radio. It is media in general because you are watching Islamic Action TV, Guerrilla Minded Productions, and this is part of the media. So where do we go? Radio specific, but media in general.
I think that black media, you know, media is it's a very powerful game, you know, and you know, when you, from my experience, when we campaigned for a radio station, you know, at a point I realised that I'm campaigning to get a license to, number one, generate income from air. You know, that's why they call it airtime.
Indeed.
You sell airspace, you know, and so you have to sort of look at the authorities that give out these licenses, you know, how wary they are of who they're going to give a license to. And so, you know...
In a society that is based on freedom and freedom of speech.
Well, yeah, in quote unquote.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I realised that, you know, at that stage that, you know, like, okay, this is, you know, it's getting closer to the point where, you know, really looks like we might get a license to you know, generate income from airtime. You know, and we've jumped over every hurdle, every hoop that they've given us. We've manoeuvred around it, we've jumped over it, we've analysed it, you know, we've thrown it back to them, and there's nothing else they can give us to say that, you know, that you can't really go for this, you know. And
dealt with the criteria.
Yeah. You know, and as well as that, you know, there's the programming side of it as well, which is again that, you know, you're going to issue a license to a group of people who are going to create programs, you know, in terms of programming, in terms of, you know, the news goes out at that time, and we're going to have this type of news on this station, you know, and we're going to promote positive news, and we're going to have news from African countries and Caribbean countries, as well as local and regional news, you know, and you know, and so the programs that we're going to have, you know, BBC Radio 4 may have The Archers. At the time, we had a so-called One Suitcase, you know, which was produced by a black female playwright, you know, and so you know, we could do exactly what you could do, and we could work within your radio licenses. And, you know, but within that we could be creative within that, and we could stretch it and push it to the boundaries and be able to express ourselves as black people.
You talk about criteria. There's a particular radio station that comes to mind, Choice FM, which used to be the station that you know as Choice FM is no more. It is gone. It's been decimated or removed or integrated, whatever the correct term is. It isn't Choice FM anymore. And that was a product of the black community support, effort. You know, people would put their intellects to work to bring that to a reality. People put their money in, but it's been removed from the landscape.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
My thoughts on that is that, you know, I experienced that myself. You know, having been a license holder, a radio station license holder. And you know, experience the fact that, you know, if you've got this product, you know, it's a product at the end of the day, and that you're trying to sell this product, and you know, you're having to compete with other people that are selling similar products. That, you know, and you know, you have to start looking at your community and you know, the economic strength within your community to sustain that product or that service that you want to provide. You know, and so it becomes really hard to continue to sustain it year after year, especially when you've got other mediums coming on board, you know, the internet and other things that people are going to and using.
Game changers, right?
Yeah, yeah. And so I think that you know, I noticed the changes with Choice. You know, first of all, I think it was acquired by Capital Radio, and then I think slowly but surely you start to see the branding change, and so they kept the same colours, but then it became Capital Extra, and then the colours were the same, and then the music started to change, and then
they got rid of Daddy Ernie, and it was never the same.
Well, then I think it was a gradual takeover. I think what was happening, you know, like, I think what you have to realise is behind the scenes, or ultimately, it's a business.
Yeah.
You know, in this country, you know, like you know, the media is owned by you know a few people, and they have subsidiaries.
Major corporations.
Yeah, they have subsidiary companies. Yeah, you know, one sort of name that you might think of may have, in fact, 20 different subsidiary stations around the country that you don't realise that they're all linked to this particular person. You know, and so it could be that person's mindset that they're trying to promote. So slowly but surely they will sort of wipe over, you know, some of the smaller stations that are trying to be independent and trying to do their own thing, you know.
Interesting. So as we speak about Choice FM and we speak about the gentrification of the airwaves, what is your ideology, your philosophy
on
the message that needs to be on the airwaves?
From who?
From yourself. Your perspective,
My
your take, your analysis of, for I and I, and put it like that, for I and I. What's your perspective on where I and I need to be?
My perspective is that, you know, I'm a strong believer in what I call education for sustainability of culture and liberty. And, you know, it's very, very important for us to, number one, like, recognise each other, you know, and recognise each other's values as black people. You know, recognise our, you know, that we're not all the same, and we're not all, you know, just, you know, we're not all sort of walking along as just one
monolith.
No, you know, we have different dimensions.
You say,
yeah, we have different dimensions and perspectives, and so we must recognise each other and value each other, and realise that it takes all of those things to make us who we are. And you know, and not only recognising them, you know, we must also be able to acknowledge and support each other, you know, to contribute towards each other's things that we're doing, and strengthen each other and to sustain each other. Because, you know, there are, you know, sometimes I wonder, you know, and I look at, you know, communities, and I see communities change and communities fade away, and then, you know, even within the Rastafari community, for example, you know, I talk from my perspective, and you know, I see that, you know, how things have changed, and you know, the fight. Sometimes the fight is kind of dwindled down, and then when we had the march in 2014, it reawakened everybody. People were in lethargy and sleeping, and it's like it reawakened not just the Rastafari community, but it reawakened black people in general.
Yeah,
that there are still issues there that need to be dealt with. Stop feeling comfortable, you know, stop, you know, feeling this fake sense of security. You know, there's still work, there's a lot of works that still need to be done, you know, and so, you know, my sort of ideology, or my kind of perspective on things is that, you know, the fight is not over, you know, we have to, I call it the good fight, you know, to continue to fight the good fight, you know, and I think we need to keep giving those messages, and not necessarily, you know, dwelling on sort of negativities and problems, but we need to be pushing.
There's a danger then, if there's a danger in that.
In what?
I call it ambulance chasing, because some social commentators in the black community, some of the shock jocks, some of those that talk, public speakers, whoever they are, the quote-unquote leaders, they tend to, in my analysis, focus on the latest emergency, the latest shooting, because Black Lives Matter, because this boy got excluded from school because he's a drug dealer. But there are people graduating or opening their own businesses or coming up with solutions, living under racism and white supremacy, and they don't really get no airtime.
Exactly. I mean, I agree. I think there's room for both. I think that yes, we need to know what's going on in the community, the shocking things that are happening in the community. But again, like I said before, it's about balance, and there's just as much positivity going on for us as black people in our community than there is some of the negative things that's happening. And you know, when we had our station, we made a point of making sure that, you know, we selected certain news that was about upliftment and empowerment, and we did programs that would engage people, you know, and we
to be inspired to act.
Yes, you know, and for people to call. We had a program called Hidden Talents, where we used to get people to call in with what is your hidden talent, you know, and people, you know, poetry, could be rapping, you know. We went to see people, went to interview people about their particular hidden talent, and it just engaged, you know, it actually engaged people. And so it doesn't always have to be, you know, we don't always have to use radio as a beating stick that we're going to beat people down and say this is what's happening, look what's happening to your community, without offering solutions. You know, it becomes depressing. You know, you know, and to a large extent, you know, the community has been depressed for a long time, and I truly believe that the march was an awakening time for a lot of people to become awakened, to, you know, to know that, you know, that there is still things, there is still a lot of different causes out there, and since the march there's been a lot of activity, in the community, you know.
Just before we close, I'd like to give you the opportunity to give our viewers your takeaway message before I close this inspiring and balanced interview.
Message is that yes, I've been involved with radio, but I've been involved with a few other things as well, and you know, radio you know, has led me to teaching, and teaching has led me to teaching others, and travelling, and looking at our community, and looking at gaps in our community, and in particular educational gaps. And so, you know, my thing has always been education for sustainability, and so that has led me to at one point, you know, to take a career break, to go to Ethiopia for 6 months, and you know, look within particularly in the Rastafari community, and whilst I was there, set up a project whereby, you know, I work with young people, mainly young men, and we make jewellery. You know, these young men that are, you know, normally not doing much there, will come in, we make jewellery. We set up an enterprise where we donate a percentage to the elders' tabernacle to maintain their roof. We pay the youth a percentage, we keep a percentage in the project. And you know, and whenever I go back to Ethiopia and I sort of go back to the project and I look for some of the youths and I can't see people, and I say, where's so-and-so, where's so-and-so? And they say to me, oh, Mama, he's gone, he's running his own business. And it's like, yeah, you know, he's graduate, you know, for me, it's another graduate. And so, and then all I ask from each youth in return is that you come back and you do one workshop a year. And so I know that, you know, there's 22 youth, and so even if I have 12 graduates and 12 of them come back and do one workshop, you know, in the year, that's one workshop a month for free to the community. And you know, like I say, since then the youths have managed to give a loan to the tabernacle in Shashamani for them to buy an oven. The oven now provides a small-scale bakery. People come from outside of the tabernacle in the community to come and buy bread every morning, and cakes and things. It means that the tabernacle is now almost sustaining itself. They've managed to save enough money to knock out the back wall to build a clay oven outside to extend. And this just started off with beads and education for sustainability. So that's my message. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So like we said, each one, teach one, and we're dealing with positivity and negativity, but we're dealing with balance. It reminds me of a good friend of mine, Amina's website, Hero Nation and Zero Nation, where she deals with the good news and the not so good news. But Islamic Action TV, Guerrilla Minded Productions, we deal with the good, we deal with the bad, we deal with the ugly, but today's been a day of balance. As you can see, a Muslim, a Rasta, sit down, peace, harmony, because it's one family. So, Bilal Ali, he's going to be closing out. Till next time, stay safe. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah ta'ala wa barakatuhu. And thank you so much, my sister, for attending today. Thank you so much. Bless you.